Hey there, Rub-a-Dub subs, it's Blackmetalwerewolf making a brand new video for this week. And this week's video is a bit of a recap of a past video. If you remember a couple weeks ago, I did a video about how HMV is closing its doors in Canada, and I kind of discussed how I felt about that and what I felt that meant for physical copies in the future. Obviously, since we're moving into more of a digital age, and I'm a little old-fashioned, I like to own my physical copies of movies, video games, CDs, things like that. I noticed that a lot of people in the comments said that they were very big fans of, physical copies as well, and they never want that to go away. And a lot of people brought up the idea that vinyls are making a comeback and stuff like that. And, it's good. It's good to see so many people like to have a physical copy and go to a store and get their things, because, it's something I'm a very big fan of. I really like doing that. Obviously, having digital things is more convenient, but you can't beat that new CD smell, Anyway, so there's some more news in Canada about HMV. Obviously, it's closing its doors. It really sucks. It was hemorrhaging money like there's no tomorrow, and for that company, there really is no tomorrow. But there's a new Canadian chain taking over in 70 locations across Canada. It's called Sunrise Records. For the best of my knowledge, it's only a Canadian company right now. Anyway, they saw the opportunity to, snatch up the market that HMV is going to be leaving behind, and they're moving in, and they have very big plans. So this video is going to be me kind of discussing that and my hopes and dreams for the company and what it means in physical copies of music in general. So a couple weeks ago, when it was announced that HMV was going out of business, I got pretty depressed and a little excited. Depressed in the sense that one of my favorite stores is closing down, and I will no longer be able to go there to get what I want, but excited in the sense that liquidation sales. But by the time I actually got to an HMV, all the sales were gone, pretty much everything was picked clean. The only thing left on the shelves were Christmas movies left over from the Christmas season. That blew, big time. Sucked a dick through a straw. But what can you do? I can only blame myself. I was late to the draw. But what really fucking sucks is the fact that it's with HMV closing in Canada, it's leaving such a big gap for physical media. Yes, in Canada there are plenty of independent record stores, but the problem is they're independent. They're like one every couple towns, You might have one here that's really good, and then like 3 towns over there's another one. There's not one good solid chain across Canada that gives people what they want. But thankfully, Sunrise is here to fill that gap. So Sunrise Records is like HMV's little brother. It's a record store that clearly wanted to be very much like HMV, but just couldn't get as big as HMV was because everyone was already going to HMV. Why would you go to Sunrise when you can get HMV as a brand you're already familiar with? But now that they're gone, Sunrise is snatching up 70 former HMV locations across the country and setting up shop, and they're hoping to make big bucks. And they really don't believe that they are going to go out of business the way HMV did. And I seriously hope they don't, because I actually really like Sunrise Records. It was just always kind of second banana to HMV. But let's discuss this. How will they fare, really, in the business of physical media? So as much as I love physical media, I do have to admit that it is becoming a bit of a dying medium. According to Nielsen Music Canada, last year CD sales dropped 19%. Whereas streaming users, the percentage of that grew 203%. So you can't really argue with those numbers. The sales really aren't there to compare to new streaming services like things like Netflix and Spotify. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of those things, I do understand their need and why people use them. But Doug Putman, the current CEO of Sunrise Records, strongly feels that there is a need for a physical store selling physical things. And I really hope he's right. Personally, every time I go into a Sunrise Records, there aren't really that many people in there. But maybe that's just because HMV was kind of snatching up their company, their customers and stuff like that. So hopefully with Sunrise taking over the HMV locations, they will be able to draw in a lot more customers and be able to make a profit. He strongly feels that they are not going to lose over $100,000 a day the way HMV was, and he's even doing things to hopefully draw more people in. For example, they obviously sell DVDs, Blu-rays, and CDs, and vinyls, because that's making a comeback. He also wants to start selling cassette tapes. Personally, I don't understand the appeal of a cassette tape, but I know there are people out there who do want that, and it is a niche market, but if you can tap that niche market, then you'll get those sales that people haven't tapped before, or haven't tapped in a very, very long time. He also wants to expand to things like board games, action figures, collectibles, apparel and stuff like that to draw in even more people. He wants to hit a lot of niche markets, because a lot of times it's the niche markets that aren't being paid attention to. For example, last time I was in a Sunrise Records, they had a bunch of t-shirts of the Universal Monsters. I have not seen a t-shirt of the Creature from the Black Lagoon in any other store ever. Never seen that before. But these people understand that there is a niche market for that, and if they can tap that, those people will go there and give them money, which is kind of the whole point of business. So he hopes that with all these little things that are going to put together, the little things will draw in big crowds. Because, you know, there's no such thing as the perfect store or the perfect product. There's such thing as the perfect products. If you just say, this is the one thing everybody wants. Well, not necessarily. But if you give a bunch of different things that a bunch of different people want, then you're going to get a bunch of different sales from a bunch of different people. That makes sense to me. And I completely understand that, and I really hope that his business becomes profitable and that physical media and DVDs and CDs and stuff like that continue to go on. Because to me, there's very little things that beat the going to a store and flipping through the metal section and finding a brand new gem, right? Because a lot of times, the way I find out about new bands is just by going to the music store and, you know, seeing an album cover that I think is really cool. A lot of times, I don't even just go on my phone and start looking up new albums. I just go to the store and see what's there, and maybe I find something I think is great, or not. One of the things I do like more about Sunrise than I did about HMV is that Sunrise always had a better selection. Don't get me wrong, HMV did have a pretty good selection, but a lot of times when I'd go to their metal section, I'd be like, okay, got it, don't want it, got it, don't want it, got it. But, because after shopping there for so many years, right, the selection does eventually run pretty thin. Because they only, a lot of times, had a lot of the mainstream metal bands, like Slayer or Slipknot. They always had pretty big sections for those bands. But for example, last time I went to Sunrise, I walked out with 2 albums of bands I've never seen at a physical store before, Gravedigger and Artillery. I've never seen either of these bands being sold in an HMV before. So they understand that by tapping that market of all these different things, they can get the people in. Because once again, if HMV would have carried these, I would have bought them before, but they didn't, so Sunrise got my money. That's the way business works. The only problem is that Sunrise is a little pricey. Since they aren't the biggest company in the world and they have to get things, like they probably don't have the best connections to get imports, they kind of have to pay through the nose and then charge you through the nose. Hopefully with their expansion, they can kind of change that and lower some of their prices to make it more available for everybody that walks in there. So with all of that being said, I really do hope that Sunrise Records does become a very big company and possibly an international company. I know a lot of people on my last video commented saying that, big chain stores like HMV in their country closed down years ago, and they'd be lucky if an independent one lasts like 2 years. So hopefully at some point, sometime very soon, somebody out there starts branching out more into all your countries so you guys can get all the cool stuff that, an American might be able to get, or a Canadian is now going to be able to get. To me, nothing really beats being able to go to a store and flip through the metal section and just finding a brand new CD or a brand new movie or something like that and enjoying the living hell out of it. So I want that for you guys as much as I want that for myself. So, like my past videos, I either do an album recommendation or an album warning, and I'm happy to do another recommendation. And this is one of the albums that came in my Metalhead box in February, and that is Windbruch. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. No Stars, Only Full Dark. After I opened my Metalhead box and listened to it, I fell in love with the album. I think it is a great album. If you guys get a chance, you should definitely look these guys up. It's a great band, great album. Definitely check it out. So that's it for today's video. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave me a comment letting me know what you thought of today's video. And while you're at it, check out some of my past videos too. If you want to keep up with me on a more daily basis, you can follow me on Instagram. I'll be putting my Instagram name in the description. I also have an official Facebook page, so if you'd like to follow me on Facebook, I'll be putting a link to that in the description. I also have a P.O. box open now, so if you guys like to write me a letter or something, you definitely can. I'll be putting my P.O. box in the description also. Just so everybody knows, I have gotten quite a bit of fan mail so far. I'm just waiting to get a bit more so I can do a video on the mail I've gotten. So if you've sent me something, and I might have already received it, and if not, it's probably on its way. It's not that I'm ignoring anybody on social media, it's just that I haven't opened it yet because I want to open it on camera. So thank you for everybody who has sent me something, and I've received it, or the stuff that's on its way. I really do appreciate it, and you guys fucking rock. So overall, thank you very much for watching, guys, and stay brutal.